Check out the Full Press Hockey Podcast with Jim Biringer, the best in the business. It's going to be great.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is the Full Press NHL Rumors here. Check it out on YouTube. Please subscribe to the channel. Give the video a like. Leave comments, questions, whatever you guys want us to answer. We'll be here. Jim Biringer, David Calabretta. We have some big news here as we start this episode. We've been talking about it all this time during this season on Rumors around the podcast here on Full Press NHL. I have to give credit to David. Back early on, we were talking about Jake Evans. The asking price was going to be really high if they were going to move him. We know Ken Hughes was looking for a second-round pick, maybe more. But as you stated, he ends up staying, signing an extension, 4 years, $2.85 million. It's a good deal for Montreal and the player.
Oh, yeah. I mean, for Evans, probably could have gone more in the market, but he knows his value in Montreal, and he knows what's in it for him, and he loves it here. And for him, it was a no-brainer. You know, he got term on his deal. He got a pay increase. And look, like I said, Kent Hughes wanted to keep him. That was his first priority. And especially with Montreal's solid play as of late, 1 point out of a playoff spot, that probably pushed the talks to go a bit even further because, Montreal's not out of this. And, like I said, Evans, Montreal, the priority was always for him to stay, and finally got done.
Yeah, and he's part of the big penalty kill unit, right, with Joel Armia.
Yeah.
Those guys have been playing really well. He's got 3 shorthanded goals, big face-off guy. But this really throws a monkey wrench into Friday in the NHL Trade Deadline because he was one of the top guys out there with Brock Nelson, with Scott Lawton. Like, he was there. Teams wanted him. Like, LA, Tampa, New Jersey especially was looking at Evans. And now he's off the board, and teams are going to have to regroup. But Montreal keeps a player that's been really effective for them going back to when they drafted him. He was really helpful in that run to the Cup final in the bubble. Homegrown talent. Takes a hometown discount, if we're going to be honest. Like, there were a lot of reports that said $3.5–4 million on the open market. So, I mean, the fact of the matter is he knows he wants to be a part of this team because this team is right there for the taking, right? Jake Evans, the Canadiens, this winning streak that they're on, 4 games, I believe, right now. Could be 5 games. They're going to be a dangerous team right now because you take both games out of Buffalo, you're playing well. And I think also, we talked about it last time, the Kirby Dach injury kind of threw a wrench in this thing too, because how many centers did they have that can go up and down a lineup? What are you going to do? You got to keep Jake Evans.
Yeah, and, to even go even further here, I don't think Montreal is necessarily done, if they could. Like I said, Kent Hughes is open to more moves here now till Friday. And obviously, Joel Armia, David Savard continue to get serious calls, and it's unsure whether or not they will be dealt. But I'm also looking at the buyer's aspect in Montreal, and I'm wondering if Montreal, like I said last week, if they could make a splash here for another forward with term, young, needs a change of scenery. And look, I brought up names, Zegras, Mittelstadt, and another name that stood out today, and that someone texted me, and I'm wondering in Seattle, it's Jared McCann. A center, plays on the wing as well, is having a bit of a more difficult season in Seattle. And considering Shane Wright's resurgence, Matty Beniers down the middle, Chandler Stevenson, maybe Seattle could be interested in making a move like that for Jared McCann. But like I said, Montreal is going to be in the market for probably some top 6 help if they could do a hockey trade here. But I don't think Montreal's done.
No, but if you go to McCann, what are you giving up if you have to get a guy like that?
Well, Seattle don't really have much defensive prospects in their pool. Their last 3 drafts, they've picked a forward, whether it's Shane Wright, Berkeley Catton, or Edward Chalet. So I wonder if Logan Mailloux, I think he'd be probably the center of any trade for a forward currently, whether it's for Zegras, whether it's for Mittelstadt, whether it's for a guy like Jared McCann. So I don't know what else it would take on top of Mailloux, maybe picks, but it all depends on if Seattle wants futures for Jared
and if they want to move him, right?
Like I said, that was a name that was more just thrown out there, but it's more to the point that Montreal is interested in adding to their lineup.
Yeah, Middlestad be a good fit too for them. I think he could flourish in that system, play second line there. Like I know he doesn't fit in second line center there in Colorado too much, but I think second line center with that team with Montreal, it could be a really, really good fit for the Canadiens. All right, so Evans not going anywhere. Do we expect any other guys to go anywhere? Like, Armia, Savard, guys like that. I mean, the thing is, you're right there. Do you really want to sell off these guys?
Yeah, Kent Hughes, it's difficult. It's a difficult decision he has to make, and I pointed out a few weeks ago that they're like the Philadelphia Flyers of last deadline. They had a lot of guys who were rumored to leave. Not many moved on other than Sean Walker, who went for a first round pick. They kept Scott Laughton, they kept Nick Sealer. So kind of like Montreal here, last I heard is that the Oilers are still calling on David Savard. And last I heard is Armia is still getting interest from teams like the Devils, the Kings, the Jets. Any team would love to have a bottom six forward like that. But again, I think Kent Hughes has an asking price, and it probably increased, now from last week because they're in the mix.
Yeah.
And they're 1 point off a wild card spot. So, it's too early to tell whether or not Montreal is going to trade them, but they're not untouchable. The right deal, I think Kent Hughes could probably pull the trigger. And the priority was obviously Jake Evans, and he's signed. So maybe there's a bit of room to let go of one of their forwards on an expiring deal.
Yeah, definitely. No, that makes sense for sure because, like you said, Savard, very coveted. Armia could be coveted. Dvorak, if you can move him, that would be ideal. But again, Montreal point out on the wild card playing meaningful hockey. Do you really want to, unless you get something really good for David Savard, I'm not going to give him away to quote Tom Fitzgerald last year when it came to Tyler Toffoli. I'm not trying to give away this guy. And as we know, Ken Hughes doesn't want futures for any of these players. So he wants something back in return.
Hockey trade.
Yeah, he wants a hockey trade. I would not be shocked if Montreal isn't done dealing. It's something to watch, definitely moving forward. Canadians are definitely in play for sure. But now, like we said before, with Jake Evans off the board, this just throws a whole monkey wrench into this thing because you have Scott Laughton, you have Yanni Gourde. Like, those are two guys that could, like, Philadelphia wants to hold down and have a bidding war. Those are two guys that potentially could get good returns. Obviously, Brock Nelson is kind of out there. Is he out there? Could it be a Jake Evans situation where he ends up signing an extension with
Ryan Donato?
Yeah, Ryan Donato's out there. So teams now have to pivot, and the market is shrinking for all these contending teams, especially New Jersey. Oh, by the way, Jack Hughes gets hurt against Vegas. Still being evaluated, doesn't look good. Going to do more tests. They're not sure the timetable. Yeah, they broker the Frederick deal for Edmonton. Does that open the LTIR space up for Jack Hughes that go on there? And they potentially add a second line center that could be there for the future in case guys go down. I think that's stuff I'm looking at if I'm New Jersey. Does that put them in a Jared McCann discussion or for instance, a Dylan Cousins discussion?
I mean, they have to look into it because I don't know about you, but that injury did not look good. I'm no doctor, but it doesn't seem like a problem that's going to get a solution is going to be solved in the next month or two, which I think Jack Hughes is out for the foreseeable future and maybe even some playoff time. But like I said, center market's going down, it's narrowing down to like a few targets left, and there's going to be a bidding war because every team needs a center. So unfortunately for the Devils, they're going to have to pay more than what they expected for a guy like Scott Laughton, for example, if they were interested in him, Yanni Gourde, Ryan Donato, or if they want to go bigger with Dylan Cousins, which they have someone who might need a change of scenery like Simon Nemec. So could something work over there? We don't know. But all I know, the Devils need a center, Jim.
Yeah, they do. I mean, like we like to throw hypotheticals out here, right?
Yeah.
Say, for instance, the Devils were to go to Buffalo and say, we'll give you Nemec and Mercer for Cousins, but you got to throw Byron in.
I mean, Kevin Adams is hesitant. That's all he is.
He
But at
is.
the end of the
But I
day,
mean, if the Devils throwing a pick somewhere down the road too, I mean, that's a hockey trade.
yeah, Buffalo need as anything they could get. They need to change their culture here. And you know what? You think of it, if you go potential for potential, it's a very fair trade. Simon Nemec has 1D categories in him. Dawson Mercer could be in the top 6 on Buffalo, and Dylan Cousins hasn't exactly been the center you know, that everyone expected. And so Bowen Byram as well hasn't really panned out in Buffalo. So I think it's a deal that makes sense. I think it's less likely to happen just in the sense that it's like a 2-for-2 blockbuster.
Yeah.
But I definitely see the Devils giving up a guy like Nemec and some picks and assets for Dylan Cousins if Kevin Adams is willing to do so.
Yeah, and I think Kevin Adams is going to have to come down on his asking price too. I don't know if he's going to be able to get like players that can play now in return. Like, let's be honest, he's not winning that deal. But Bo Byram probably could use a change of scenery. We talked about it before, right? Like, let's be honest, he's playing the offside when he should be developing on the other side.
Yeah, and Buffalo do not have a right-hand defenseman
Right.
that could play top 4 minutes right now. And there's a guy in New Jersey, Simon Nemec.
So that's what I'm saying. You throw Byram in there. Again, we didn't see a Middlestat for Byram deal coming last year. That was kind of out of the blue. But now we get it. I mean, that could be something the Devils could look at. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I haven't, something that they could look into. But again, it's hypotheticals here. But if the Devils know Jack Hughes is out for a while, which we don't know the timeline, but it didn't look good, and the way his history of shoulder injuries are, that's not a good thing, the way he went into the boards. And no malice on Jack Eichel either. I mean, that's just a tough, bad result on a good back check. But again, it'll be interesting to see what New Jersey does because of the Jack Hughes injury. What things change now with Jake Evans off the board? Where do they go? Because we know teams are looking. And what about like a guy? I'm going to throw this out there. We know Nashville's moving guys. Gustav Nyquist just went to Minnesota. Tommy Novak, is he a guy that could be in play for teams?
I mean, yeah, look, Nashville, Barry Trotz said it himself. He's willing to do some roster operations on anyone. No one's safe other than maybe Philip Forsberg and Roman Josi down there. And, going back to the Devils, it's Tom Fitzgerald. It's been known he's been the most active general manager across the National Hockey League over the last few weeks. And with the Jack Hughes injury, and let's say they do have $7.8 million to use, you got to use it.
Yeah.
because your playoff spot is not locked in.
No.
The Columbus Blue Jackets are 4 points behind you with 2 games in hand. The Devils could really see themselves fall to a wild card spot if they don't clean up their roster and add some reinforcements, especially with a guy like Jack Hughes gone, who's your best player.
Right, and you didn't do it last year when Dougie Hamilton, we knew in December, was going to be out 4 to 6 months with a torn pec, and you had $9 million in cap space to use. Maybe a little less prorated, but what we're saying is they had the cap space and waited too late. Yes, he likes to be patient, but sometimes, and you don't want to overreact to injuries, but New Jersey definitely has to make a move and address some needs because they have to be active and figure out who they want and who they need that they can bring in to help this team out. Because they need to make the playoffs this year. And whoever they go after is going to be something that, has to help this team this year and potentially moving forward. Because, again, no one's happy whether you trade guys like Zetterlund or Strangovich or guys like that. But, again, if Meyer can start scoring, they have some punch up there, but they're going to have to add more.
They have to add. And, before the Jack Hughes injury, Jake Evans might have been enough. A guy like Jake Evans, but now, you have to think bigger picture. You have to go get someone bigger with more punch, top 6 potential here because, Jack Hughes is almost irreplaceable for this team.
Yeah, he is. He's definitely.
And, what he brings offensively on the table, maybe they do a Thomas Hertl-like trade. They go get someone, who's proven, is signed already and is going to help them now and in the future. But again, the Devils have to think outside the box now because If you would have asked me a week ago, yeah, go get some depth, bottom six scoring. But now they have to really look at if it's serious, this injury, as what's being reported, the Devils have to go make a big splash.
Absolutely, they do. Let's stay in that region. Let's stay here. We mentioned them before, the Islanders, right? Brock Nelson, Kyle Palmieri, JG Pageau. Is the white flag being waved in Long Island after another loss to the Rangers? They played the Winnipeg Jets on Tuesday night. It feels like they're making moves, but again, as I said before, Nelson could be a guy like similar to Evans, where a contract extension just comes out of the blue, and then he's off the board too. But Kyle Palmieri can add scoring to some teams. JG Pageau's got term that can help some teams out. What do we make of the Islanders?
Honestly, they're in no man's land right now. And, when you're in no man's land and you have a lot of free agents on expiring deals, you trade them. You trade them and you get some assets back because, especially with a loss tonight, they are 7 points out of a wildcard spot going into the trade deadline. With a loss tonight to the Winnipeg Jets. And the Winnipeg Jets are first place in the National Hockey League, by the way.
Yeah.
So, I do think Brock Nelson is extending just because of all that's been talked about and how he's been speaking about his future. He doesn't sound like someone who's on the move. But guys like Pageau, Palmieri, with a loss tonight, Lou Lamoriello should most definitely listen to offers and try and get them moved. Because, there's only so much seasons you could go out there and try and make that playoff push and keep insisting that you're going to try and make it. Sometimes you have to swallow your pride, and I know Lou Lamoriello doesn't want to sell. He's made it clear he doesn't want to rebuild on the island. But a retooling, something like Boston's doing right now, trading their guys, trying to, still be in the mix, but still getting rid of their pending free agents, that's something they have to look into.
No, I agree with that. So, yeah. A lot going on in Lamoriello land on the island. They're having meetings. They're discussing the strategy. What comes next for the Islanders? We go down south, and obviously Tampa, Florida, Battle of Florida. But there was a new player in town. You called it too, Seth Jones, the Florida Panthers from Chicago. Spencer Knight goes the other way. But as I stated, Matthew Tkachuk going on LTIR, could be lost for the rest of the regular season. That opens up some cap space for a team like Florida. We know Riley Smith's being held out by the New York Rangers. We know add in the usual suspects of Vegas, maybe Columbus, maybe Dallas, maybe Tampa, maybe Florida as a potential fit. We don't think the Florida Panthers are done, do we?
No, I don't think so. I mean, play by the rules. If the rule says you could use that money, you use it. And I don't think Florida, I look at their team and already right now, they're still a Stanley Cup contender. So I don't think they really need to add anywhere in their top six because, Matthew Tkachuk's going to come back for the playoffs. But if there's a way they could bolster their bottom six or maybe add a depth defenseman here, they're going to do it. I think they have the money. They have some draft picks. And a guy like Riley Smith might be perfect, actually. He's making, I could be wrong, about $4 million.
Yeah.
About.
Yeah, the Rangers eat like half of it, retain whatever they have.
Even if they don't, if they want to be even, cheaper here, they could probably take on the full salary and give up a 4th-round pick for Riley Smith.
Yeah.
And that's a 20, 30 goal scorer, when he's on the game. So you're adding that to your 3rd or 4th line. I think, that's something Bill Zito is definitely going to look into. But going back to their Seth Jones trade, I love that deal for Florida. They got Seth Jones at $7 million, and they're going to see if maybe he's the new option on the right side with Aaron Ekblad maybe asking for too much money in Florida, right? And, I look at their blue line right now. It's an exciting blue line. It's probably one of the best ones in the league. So Florida, they're in a good spot, and they're probably in an even better spot now that Matthew Tkachuk's out, in the sense that they could add some more pieces for their playoff run.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely think Riley Smith's a good add there. I think it'd be good for Vegas too. I'm not sleeping on the Vegas Golden Knights. I think they're up to something. Columbus is looking to add a forward up the middle. Again, as we round this thing out, Mikko Rantanen, again, is he going to stay? Won't he stay? Is he going to sign? There's some reports out there, potentially LA Kings, but, would they give something up if they know an extension's not coming? They're more of like looking at Palmieri and guys like that could help them in the stretch run instead of a Rantanen, but that could be something they revisit in the summer. What do we make of Mikko Rantanen in Carolina?
Well, the first red flag is that he's not giving an answer by Friday.
Yeah.
That red flag, and that says to me, I'm going to the market on July 1st. Right? Yeah. So that's what it says for me, But again, I think, my intuition, and I've been pretty good lately when it comes to this, I think Mikko Rantanen is going to stay a Carolina Hurricane, and he's just going to be a rental. I think he's going to play through the season with them, go to the playoffs, maybe make a run, and maybe they revisit a contract at the end of the season and decide to actually pay him what he wants. And then they let him go like they did with Gensel because right now they have no other choice. Rantanen doesn't want to resign before the deadline. It's not happening. So I think Carolina's going to keep him and use him as their own rental.
Yeah, I like that. I actually like that play. And then you still have time to negotiate a deal after the deadline and see how things pan out, right? Like, he needs to be comfortable in his new surroundings. Remember, he get traded there, shock of the trade. Then he only plays a couple of games on the road. Then you go into Four Nations. You kind of have to settle into your new surroundings of Carolina. And to me, I think that's something that, is definitely could help them, especially in the stretch run, because it doesn't matter who they play in the first round. They're probably having home ice advantage, and it could help them in the second round. But again, I go back to the trade itself, as we've mentioned multiple times. They're looking for a superstar guy that brings them over the edge. Marty Natchez would be becoming that guy, and now he could be that guy in Colorado. You bring in Rantanen, but can he fit the system that Rob Rendamore wants to play? That's just my only thing. And if he doesn't like what he's, seeing and how he's feeling playing in this system, he's going to look to go elsewhere.
Yeah, and I mean, over the last 2 games, he has started to pick it up production-wise. And I mean, if he comes out in the playoffs and he's the Mikko Rantanen we all know and love, Carolina may be enticed to keep him and actually pay him more than what he wants because, at the end of the day, if you're a good playoff performer, it's priceless. Yeah. So, there's a risk when you keep him, knowing that he's probably going to walk. But at the end of the day, you're getting futures back for Mikko Rantanen, and that doesn't help Carolina in their playoff push.
No, it doesn't. They need, if they're going to trade him, like we said, you need to get like a big, person back, big player back that can help them with their run now. And there's no guarantee a team trading for him, he's going to sign there either. So most likely he's going to stay. And there's probably going to be some trades that we don't know about that are going to come. Like, there are going to be players that get moved, like the Thomas Hertl thing that we saw that happened last year. That could come out of the blue too.
Oh, I think we're going to see 1 or 2 of those for sure. And I don't know what team it's going to be, but I think there's going to be some curveballs at this deadline. That's for sure. And it's going to be exciting.
Absolutely. It's going to be exciting. Guys, keep it locked in. Full Press NHL. Got all your trade coverage. We're going to be around Friday doing the show. We always, every year we do it. Trade deadline for a couple hours, reviewing everything, breaking in with some news, some interviews, things like that. We like to have fun here. But again, this has been the Full Press NHL Rumors podcast. Jim Biringer, David Calabretta. Get it up iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Also up on YouTube. Again, subscribe to the channel. Stay notified. You don't want to miss out. You need to be listening. We're breaking it down for you. We're always first on it because it always is true. Guys, again, take care. Again, like the video. Subscribe to the channel. Full Press NHL. We'll be back again real soon.
Barry Trotz, Nashville Predators, making sure you're listening to Full Press Hockey Podcast.